Today on Expert Showcase, we have expert Wendy Nolin, who's going to show you how to own your greatness, stop apologizing, and start asking for what you want. All right, let's just jump right into it today. Wendy, why don't you tell us about your story? Give us your hero's journey.
You got it. Actually, I've been telling the story for a long time, and I never thought of it as a hero's journey, but I guess you could definitely spin it that way. So you can't see the gray hair, but I promise it's there. I worked in two different professions. Really, I had two careers, in a long amount of time. So that's kind of unusual I'm a Gen Xer. I spent 8 years in the airline industry, and then I was 10 years in luxury retail sales and management. And so that's 18 years, right? That was half of my life. And for me, what happened was at the end of 10 years in retail, I don't know if anybody's ever worked in retail, but it's brutal. So it was nights and weekends and holidays. And I made great money, but I also I lost a lot along the way. I lost, valuable relationship, marriage crumbled, and frankly, I kind of lost my identity. So in 2008, nothing really extraordinary happened. Nothing like, the economy tanked or anything like that. But, that was just a minor blip on the world screen, right? But in addition to this, I also quit my job and had nothing else lined up. Brilliant move, right? Complete, just an awesome decision to make. But I quit because I was about to go postal. I mean, I was so unhappy. I was, physically, I was suffering. My stress level was through the roof, and, a lot of pain issues and stress issues. So quit my job and, sigh of relief. Sure, that was great, but oh yeah, by the way, the bills just don't magically disappear just because your income goes away. Who'd have thunk, right? So, here's me in all of my brilliance. I needed the break, but then I also realized, I need to start writing some checks here and paying some bills. So I decided, I'm going to try and figure out what else I can do. That did not work so well. Because what I ended up doing, Chris, is for 6 months, I got myself into what I call the spin cycle, which I described, or how I would describe my actions were I was trying to figure out what I would be good at that I like to do without having any objectivity about myself. But what I did know is I knew what I didn't want to do, and I knew what I didn't like doing anymore. But that didn't really help me narrow down the myriad of choices that were available to me in a new career path. So I still found myself very frustrated, and I found that I ended up doing the same things over and over, expecting a different result each time, which, is the definition of insanity. Yes, that was me. That was me. So, and my husband at the time, he's like, when are you going to start helping out with the bills, right? So things were not good in my life in 2008. So I'm very stressed out. My stress level was bad while I was working. It was even worse now, right? Brilliant move on my part. So I'm laying awake at night on one of these many sleepless nights, and I'm staring at the ceiling waiting for this divine, the sky to open and the answers to fall from the sky. Well, of course, that doesn't happen. But I'm laying there and I'm staring in the ceiling for, 3-4 hours every night. And I finally got down to that low point that you described. And I lay there awake one night and I thought out loud, I got to do something, but what do I do? And then I had an epiphany. I had a moment of levity. And I said to myself, what would a smart person do in this situation? And I thought, well, I are smart, so a smart person would ask for help. And that's exactly what I did the very next day. I asked for help. I picked up the phone. I called a friend of mine who, she doesn't call herself a coach. I can't remember how she described herself. This was 7 years ago. But I described to her what I was going through. And she says, Wendy, She says, I help people create their life by design. And I said, oh my God, I have no idea what that means, but it sounds so much better than what I'm going through. So I said, let's talk. Long story short, I hired her, and she helped me figure out what I was good at that I like to do, and what I'm good at that I like to do that I can make money at. And I realized that what I was good at that I like to do from my 2 previous careers was sales and training and coaching and developing my team. And then I said, well, how do I make money doing this? And she said, well, let's, start to investigate the options. And then the next thing you know, I realized, oh, this is a pain that I had. Other people must be experiencing the same pain. What if I can help them solve this problem? And boom, that's how I became a coach. And for 7 years I've been coaching, and I don't feel like I've worked a day in the last 7 years. So I finally realized this is my destiny. This is why I'm here. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm good at it and I like doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when that happens, that you end up having that epiphany moment, that moment of clarity, that moment that says, oh, this is what I'm really supposed to do, and this is how I can help people. And it's so great that you took all the negatives that you were going through in your life and turned them into positives for other people. I mean, too many times people go through negatives and just stay in that woe is me cycle, forever, and everybody owes me everything. And it's like, no, how do you figure out, how you can take all your negatives and make it positive for other people, right?
Absolutely. I think that's what makes me a great coach, is because I've been in that, I've been in those, I've walked a day in those shoes, right? I've wallowed in that self-pity, in that negative space. But I'm of the mindset that I haven't allowed myself to stay there. I realized, okay, you know what? You need to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep moving. And so I think that's what I bring to the table in my coaching experience is I'm not just pulling people along. I'm right there with them, shoulder to shoulder, saying, you know what? I know how it feels. I've been there. And I've even been there in the recent past. I've had a few things take me out, and I realized, okay, if I'm going to be a great coach, I have to eat my own dog food. I have to follow my own advice. I have to live the very things that I'm coaching my clients to live. And there are days when it's tough, but I have to do it because I realize what a hypocrite if I'm telling somebody else to do it for money and then I'm not doing it myself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing how people can pick up on someone who's authentic versus inauthentic. In other words, somebody who's living and doing exactly what they say to do versus what they doing something different. So. So as far as a coach goes, it's interesting because I have this conversation with coaches a lot. Some coaches consider themselves mentors. Some coaches consider themselves strategists. Some coaches consider themselves visionary, and some coaches really adhere to the strict, I'll say, coaching from our personal development world, which is asking a whole lot of questions and allowing the client to figure out the answer, the right answer for them, the answer that's inside of them. What type of coach for people watching, what type of coach would you say you are? Are you more of a mentor, a visionary, a questioner? What type of coach are you?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I think I'm a little bit of each of those. But I really describe myself as a strategic thinking partner for my clients, right? I'm really that objective outsider, but I've also earned the reputation of being an ass kicker for hire. And sometimes people don't want to get on a phone call, on a coaching call with me and just have me ask them a lot of questions. Sometimes they just need to be told what to do. And so in those moments, I have to reflect back to them what I'm hearing, because sometimes they don't even realize what they're saying. They don't even hear how they're being, and they need to be reminded. I have to really hold that mirror up and say, do you not hear what you're saying? Do you realize who you're being in this moment, and that what your words are and what your actions are completely misaligned? And so when I ask questions, sometimes it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
But I think I bring a little bit of each of those words or descriptors to my coaching practice. So I coach people, I meet them where they're at, and I communicate with them at their level. And I don't expect them to meet me where I'm at, but what I will do is through communicating with them at their level is I help bring them up and raise them up so that they can get better, right? Because that's why they're working with a coach, is to achieve their highest potential or be the best version of themselves or whatever it is they're looking for from the coaching. So I've been a mentor, I've been a coach, I've been a strategist, I've been a visionary, because a lot of times I find what's really interesting in my coaching sessions is sometimes the most valuable portion of the coaching session is the last 5 minutes, when they reveal some like deep secret or some little nugget that they've been afraid to reveal, or it's almost like it's an offhanded comment, and then I'm like, whoa, 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 time out, what's going on here? You just told me that you want to start your own company, and yet you're an executive in this company, and I'm coaching you to be an executive, or to act more like an executive and to really step into your executive role, but you want to own your own company. Okay, wait a minute. This is a game changer, right? This changes the whole trajectory of our coaching. So it really just depends on where the client is and what they need. But what I definitely do is I'm always stretching them. I'm always helping them expand in some way, so that, you know, because what I see is as the objective outsider is I see what they're capable of that they're completely oblivious to. But it's usually because not so much oblivious, just it's those self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah, exactly, and it's interesting. I think that's a great statement to kind of wrap up the hero's journey piece of our show today, because it leads right into what the next segment's going to be about owning their greatness. So we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Wendy about her one of the topics she's very passionate about, which is owning your greatness. Stop apologizing for asking what you want. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. And we're back with our Experts Focus piece of today's show on Expert Showcase. And today we're talking with Wendy Nolin, and now we're going to dig deep into, or at least as deep as we can in 10 to 12 minutes, owning your greatness and stop apologizing. You know, I should just split those up and say them better. Own your greatness. Stop apologizing and start asking for what you want. You know, maybe like for me, a better tongue to talk with. You know, I'm a public speaker. I can dare talk. Anywho, so Wendy, give us a real brief overview of what we're going to talk about in this piece of our show today.
Yeah, you bet, Chris. So, you know, one of my mastermind group members made a really great comment to me. He says, Wendy, you know what? You need to coach or write about that which you need to learn. And I'm really starting to, only in the very most recent past, become really aware of just how powerful our energy is, my energy is. And what I've discovered is that, you know, there's what I call an epidemic of overhumility. There are too many people walking around feeling like they have to really downplay, you know, their greatness and downplay their accomplishments. And, you know, the sad part is the reason they're doing that is because other people are offended, or other people want to pull them back down and keep them at their level, right? Because it's intimidating. And I say, you know what? Screw those people that are intimidated. Can I be frank? You know, that's their problem. If you know that you're great at what you do or who you are, it's okay to own your greatness. Now, it's not okay to take it to the extreme and be a complete jerk and a pompous ass. I'm not advocating that. But really, it's, you know, let go of this, oh, I don't want to offend anyone, and I just want to, you know, no, step into and own your greatness. Really realize just how much power you have, and it's okay to use that power and to own it and to stop giving it away, because when you own your greatness, you know what? You attract other great people around you. And that's what we all want, right? I think we want to attract that kind of greatness, but we're too afraid to step into that greatness because of what other people think. Hey, you know what? I'm of the opinion it's none of my business what other people think about me. All that matters is what I think about me and my very dearest, closest friends who also have stepped into and owned their greatness.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, as we were talking in the prep for the show, when I see the topic of owning your greatness, I immediately think of Les Brown, and
Yeah.
it's something that it's something that even one of the things that Les talks about, is empowering other people, and you can't really empower other people until you own your own greatness. So, during this piece of our episode, we're going to talk about 3 keys to success. 1 is awareness, 2 is making a choice, and 3 is having those pattern interrupts so you can make the change. So let's get into it. And the first key to success is all about awareness, about being acutely aware of how often you have self-limiting thoughts or internal dialogue. And those are Wendy's words, not mine. I'm just kind of reading them off the screen. So Wendy, tell us what you mean about becoming acutely aware, and tell us, maybe give us a way to how to become acutely aware.
Sure, you bet. So, one of the things that I've learned is, everyone has this power within them. But until we really pay attention to how we're affecting the energy and the situations and the people around us, we don't necessarily know that we have this power. So in, this morning I was writing in a chapter in the book, Own Your Greatness, that I'm hoping will be published this summer. And so what I was writing about this morning is trying to give examples that illustrate this really easy. So, think about yourself, right? If you ever go to a networking event or some sort of a social event, and you notice when somebody walks in the room and you turn your head and you look at them, but it's not because they've done anything or said anything, but for whatever reason, you just notice them. And the reason why is because they have a very powerful energetic field around them, right? We all have this. The nice thing about that person is they're aware of their energy. They're aware of the power that they own. So they're not flamboyant and boisterous and loud and breaking stuff or people with their energy. They're not a bull in the china shop. They're very graceful and they're very confident and poised. They've stepped into and owned their greatness, but yet they can still have that effect on a room of people. So think about yourself, right? When you, let's say you get on a conference call at work, and you get on the conference call and you notice when other people dial in on the conference call and you all start to engage in this call, that somebody with a really high level of energy that's really positive and upbeat, they have an impact on the people on the call, right? But then when somebody else starts to engage in the call and they have a really bad or a negative attitude, guess what that does, right? That permeates the energy of the group. And so if you just become aware of how other people's energy affects you, then you can begin to realize how much energy you have and how your energy is affecting others, right? So first, it's usually easier to look at other people first to notice how they're influencing the situation or the people around them in order for you to become aware of how you have the same power.
Right. That is, and it's interesting. I never really thought about it that way, but it's easier to look at somebody like you, and I'm just going to kind of repeat. It's easier to look at somebody else and say this person's being a jerk or this person's doing something wrong,
Right.
than it is to admit about yourself. But then once you see them doing something wrong, and then all of a sudden you recognize yourself in them, you go, maybe other people. Maybe other people feel the same way about me. And the other thing is that we always identify things in others that we see in ourselves. In other words, it's our, it's our RS, our reticular activating system. When we're acutely aware of something like buying, the minute we buy a red car, all of a sudden everybody in the world has a red car, and we swore before we bought that red car, this color red did not exist. It was non-existent. There was only one of these I swear. This was the only one on the lot. How did everybody else get this same color car today? What did they magically, but then all of a sudden you realize it's, your attention, your attention goes, your energy flows where your attention goes, or something like that.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. So folks, take note. That was an excellent little nugget there. Look for something. You know what Wendy said. Look for something in other people, and then realize that when you're seeing it in other people,
Hmm.
it might be because you're subconsciously recognizing it in yourself. So
Right.
once we're aware, then we've got to make a choice. What are we talking about making a choice here?
That's a great segue into, really beginning to make the change if you decide to. So making a choice is, once you become aware of how you're showing up and how your energy has influence and power, then you can choose to really take control of that, right? So, when you first become aware of your power and then you actively begin to use it, you often have a very low level of competency in wielding said power. Kind of like I use a great analogy that maybe many people in my generation will appreciate, which is Luke Skywalker in Star Wars when he first is handed the little device, the handheld device for the lightsaber, and he starts whipping it around and he's listening to the cool sounds and he's checking out the lights that are coming out of it, right? And it's all fascinating, but he's breaking shit. And so sorry, I'm very
It's
authentic that way.
okay.
He starts breaking things, and he realizes just how powerful this is now. All of a sudden he's given this power, but he's very, very bull in the china shop, unwieldy, and it's very unsafe.
Right.
So when you first become aware of your power, you have to be very careful how you wield your lightsaber so you're not breaking things and people and turning people off and repelling you, because when you become aware of your power and you start to use it, you can amplify it. So by choosing first just to acknowledge that you have this power and then to begin to use it, I suggest kind of experimenting a little bit, and just choosing to use it for the greater good, because I don't want to focus on the negative, but there is a negative downside to becoming aware of this power. So let's just talk about the positive. So when you choose to own your power, you choose to really use it for the greater good and for the benefit of everyone, including yourself, right? And so this is in the form of, how can I take better control of, let's say something like a relationship, right? There's really, I look at life as the delta, right? It's the triangle. There we go. But the delta is not three equal sides. It's two sides that are equidistant and one shorter side. That's usually pretty representative of the three most important things in life: our money, our health, and our personal relationships. And that short side is the one thing maybe that's out of balance. Because if all three sides are equidistant, it's no longer the delta, it's just a triangle, right?
Right.
And that's ideal. But in reality, there's usually something that is not quite right in our life. It's either our money, our health, or our relationships. So if you want to start to choose to use this power for the greater good and for your own benefit, pick that thing which on the delta is the uneven side, the short side, and let's say it might be a personal relationship. So then choose to use that power to influence some sort of a positive outcome and experiment with it. I was at a TED Talk yesterday, TEDx here in Austin, and two of the people that spoke alluded to the same thing. And that is, if you want more of something, you have to give it away first, right? So if you want more power and more control over your power, you have to give some of your power away, right? So if it was in relationships, let's say, if you want more love from somebody, give it away first.
Right.
If you want less fear in your life, more confidence, help somebody else be more confident first, right? So it's just making those conscious choices on how you're going to use that energetic vibration and that power.
Right, and it makes so much sense. It's kind of funny. It's funny you mentioned leadership and power. A lot of people think that when they give away their power, especially in leadership, that it's diminishing them. And what they don't realize is that when people that whether they're coaching or whether it's a business they're running, when people feel more in control of what they're doing, most people will then follow the leader more and will actually give that leader. It's kind of it flips it kind of flip-flops, so to speak. In other words, it might seem counterintuitive, and here's the thing of it: if you give away the power and somebody takes advantage of it, then you have an employee that is probably not right for your business, unless you really wanted that employee to take advantage of it. So it's kind of it's a way of you give control to get control. So I completely understand what you're saying there. So we've talked about awareness and making a choice. To have all these things happen, one of the things you talk about is pattern interrupts. So like interrupting negative and self-limiting thought patterns and replacing them with more effective language. Why don't we dig into that a little bit? Tell us a little bit about pattern interrupts.
Sure, you bet. So of course this is Tony Robbins, of course, and Richard Bandler from NLP fame. And the pattern is we exist in a trance most of the time. Our life has become very routine and very rote. Thank you. Right on cue. I love it, Chris. We've become we go through our day in a trance, right? You get up at the same time every day. You brush your teeth the same way. You go to use the restroom and then make your breakfast and walk your dog. And oh wait, that was my whole routine. That's my life every day, right? And when you get into a trance, if you're in a trance, then that means you're engaging in habits over and over and over again. And our life, if it has become very habitual like that, then maybe, just maybe, we're engaging in self-limiting thought patterns that are not serving us. So, this is all leading up to this action. So, the first thing you have to do is become aware that you're engaged in self-limiting thought patterns. And then you have to choose to, decide, right? Decide means to eliminate all other possibilities, right? So decide means choose to not do that anymore and to really step into and own your greatness. So then in order to act on that, you have to replace those habits and those thought patterns with new thought patterns that are more beneficial and that serve you instead of take you out, basically. So you have to replace those thought patterns. Something that I heard recently was you have to either change your perception or change your procedure, right? So if you think it's a bunch of bad things that are happening to you, then you either need to reframe your perception of what's happening, or you need to change your procedure, right? You have to do something different. So that is the choice of acting differently or reacting differently to what's happening in the world around you. And to interrupt those self-limiting thought patterns, right, you have to become aware that you're doing it and say, okay, in this moment, I'm going to either change my perception or change my procedure. I'm either going to change what I'm making it mean, or I'm just going to choose a different reaction.
Exactly, and it's interesting because what most people don't realize, and I'm sure you do, but habits are formed as a self-preservation mechanism. In other words, if we had to think about breathing, if we had to think about everything we do habitually, we would never be able to get anything done during a day because our brain would be kind of used up. So over time, evolution has taught us how to make things habitual. And the problem is that when you get into bad habits and you don't realize them, and you don't realize that there's something better, then you'll never change. It's kind of like, the interesting thing is there's a similar thing with ants and with animals. In other words, ants will go out, they'll find food, and they'll lay a trail of stuff back to let other ants know where the food is. Well, the unfortunate part is if you kill those ants, the unfortunate part for the ants, that is, if you kill them and put their traps there, they never kind of cover up that path and tell other ants not to come back. They still keep coming, and it's unfortunate for you because you still get ants in the house, but it's unfortunate for the ants too because they go into the trap and die. So you don't want to be an ant. You might want to be
Right.
an
The moral of the
uncle.
story.
You might want to be an uncle or a cousin, but no, I mean, you might want to be an aunt. But but the whole point, and this is what I believe you're saying, is that when you get bad habits and habits that don't serve you, you need to have a way to have a pattern interrupt so you can understand that you're in a habit and then make a choice. You know, do you want to change your perception or change your procedure? About that particular habit, or do you want to do nothing? And the interesting part is, even the choice of doing nothing, at least it gives you control, and then it
Right.
starts you down a path of, you know, getting out of the woe is me. Because that's the other thing that I think habits sometimes lead you to, is the whole woe is me. And it's like,
Sure.
once you have to start making those choices, you get a lot less leeway to say woe is me, and you have to
Mm.
actually confront things, right?
Yeah, right, right. So a lot of what patterns, those thought patterns, those self-limiting beliefs, they're decision-making models that people are engaged in without even realizing they're decision-making models. And it's kind of like my example from the hero's journey. I was engaged in a decision-making model that I kept engaging in the same decisions, expecting a different result. And because that decision-making model was flawed, I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So it's just becoming aware and saying, okay, well, if I keep doing this and I'm not getting the desired result, I need to do something different.
And that's, you know, and that's that aha moment that, you know, everybody, you know, kind of needs, I'll say needs to have, right? I mean, it's something that, I mean, there is an old story about a concrete worker, or trying to think of what the whole point is. Guy goes out every day to the field, takes a hammer, hits a rock 100 times, it doesn't break. And it eventually, you know, eventually it does break, and his son says, "Wow, you finally broke it." And you say, "Well, it wasn't the first or the last, but it was all the hits. It was all the hits in between."
Right.
But the other, you know, to take that story one step further, he might have changed the hammer he was using. He might have also, you know, sharpened it, did something else to help facilitate and speed, you know,
Right.
speed it along. It's still everything you do, but you have to figure out, are you doing, you know, are you doing the right thing? And you have to get to the point where, do you know if you're doing the right thing or not? In other words, if you're out hitting a brick or hitting a big boulder with a rubber mallet, you're never
Mhm.
going to break it. So you have to understand you have to change what you're
Right.
doing to eventually
Right.
make it happen, right?
So owning your greatness is really it's a journey, it's a process, like these steps, right? These steps will help you get there. And that's really the thrust of our discussion today, I think, is really just, you don't just flip a switch. You can say out loud, sure, I just own my greatness, but to really live it and embody it and to emanate and radiate that power and that energy, it takes practice.
And that, I think, is the key. And I think that's a great place to kind of wrap this segment up and tell people how to get. And I will tell people in a second how to get in contact with you, and also tell them about a great offer you provided. But I think that's a great way to end this up. You can claim your greatness and you can own it and you can say it, but then you have to put the actions behind it to actually make it happen. Because just by saying it gets you started down the path. But if you don't keep putting gas in a tank, your car's eventually going to run out, and it's going to die on the side of the road. And
Right.
we don't want that to happen to you. So to help to prevent that from happening to you, I want you to head out to wendynolin.com, and I'm going to put the website here up on the screen, and there we go, wendynolin.com. Yeah, I think I spelled it right. It looks right to me. I have terrible spelling. It's funny. People read my emails. They go, "Don't you ever use spell check?" And yeah, that's the problem. But anyway, used it way too much. So head out to wendynolin.com. On her website, she's got a place you can subscribe. And once you subscribe to her, email list, you get a free copy of her first book, The Top 10 Best Investments in Yourself. That sounds like a great title. It sounds like a great book. I've got to get it and read it. I must admit I haven't subscribed yet. I'm sorry, Wendy. I forget. I will. But it sounds like The Top 10 Best Investments in Yourself. Sounds like a great book. And head out to wendynolin.com. Sign up, subscribe, get her book today. Before, we're going to go to break here in a second. While we're at break, go subscribe. Do it now. Because you're also going to be releasing another book that is called Own Your Greatness, and I'm quite sure that if they subscribe now, they'll get more information when that book is coming out and how to get
Absolutely.
it, and
Right.
all the other great stuff that you've got going on.
Exactly.
So awesome stuff so far. Stick with us. When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about getting known. We're going to find out how Wendy gets visibility, credibility, and is becoming a leading authority in her niche, or niche, as our Canadian friends may say. And once again, during the break, head on over to wendynolin.com and subscribe, and we'll be right back. And we're back with the Getting Known segment of Expert Showcase for today. We've been having this incredible conversation with our awesome guest on owning your greatness, and stop apologizing and start asking for what you want. So Wendy, welcome back. Let's talk about getting known. And tell us a little bit about how you're currently building. We'll start off with visibility. The pillar to getting known is really visibility, credibility, and then becoming the leading authority. And all starts with visibility, getting people to see you and kind of know who you are. So what are you doing right now to build visibility?
I'm a Leo, and Leos love to be the center of attention, in the spotlight. And I love doing speaking engagements, and I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements. There's no time frame too short or audience too small. I had an event where I spoke 2 weeks ago, and I had 5 minutes. 5 minutes. What can you say in 5 minutes? Well, not very much, but I managed to get I managed to get enough across that I had quite a few people who were quite interested and subscribed and followed me, and so no audience is too small. I've had audiences as small as 4 people, and I've spoke at national conferences in Vegas, so no audience is too big. So speaking engagements are one of my favorite. The podcasts are a lot of fun. I'm having a great time doing podcasts. And certainly just being out there in the networking community here locally, and talking with more movers and shakers in my profession, and really staying relevant in my industry through relationships with my colleagues in the coaching profession.
Great. So speaking engagements, doing podcasts.
And videos. I'm doing videos, of course. Of course, I'm on video. Expert Showcase. I'm doing videos. Duh.
I was going to say, the interesting thing is you're an author, and I might have missed it, but did you talk about doing any blogging, whether it be video or written blogs? I mean, do you do?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I do. I write a blog post. I have 2 websites. One for I really operate 2 different types of coaching practices. And for both of my websites, I write a blog post every week, and certainly I'm writing my 2nd book. And my long-term goal, my 7-year goal, is to be a prolific author and to publish 3 to 4 books a year. And so I'm already on book 2 this year, and I already have a 3rd one lined up. My 3rd project, I already know what I'm going to write about. So that's my long-term strategy. So yes, I'm writing a lot. I'm writing anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 words a week on my book, and about 2,000 words a week on my blog posts. So that's a lot of writing.
Yeah.
And then I publish a video for each of my websites as well. So 2 separate YouTube channels, 2 separate websites. So yeah, I sound busy, don't I? Busy is a 4-letter word. I sound very productive.
Well, but the whole point is you're down the path of building a successful business and helping others, have a successful life and a successful business. And let's face it, it's a noisy world out there. So you have to do multiple things to become visible to your ideal clients. So let's talk about credibility a little bit. Let's face it, we're both in the personal growth and personal development industry, and let's make no bones about it. There are a lot of charlatans in our industry, and it's sometimes tough to build that credibility and demonstrate and separate yourself. At least I'll say at the beginning, or when it's, oh, you're just another. I remember when I first started, it was, oh, you're another motivational speaker. It's like, no, I'm an inspirational speaker. Oh, you're a motivational speaker. And it's like, okay. I just come see me and we'll figure out, then you can figure out what I am. But
Right.
so how are you building credibility and setting yourself apart as the person who's got the answers, not just
Mhm.
somebody else who's a snake oil salesman out there?
Great question. And, so I want to comment on two things. One, I get, how you get, oh, you're a motivational speaker. I get, oh, you're a life coach. And I'm like, no, I'm not a life coach. But that's okay. I've gotten over the whole, so you're a life coach. I'm like, no, but whatever. Just, yeah, coach is the right word. Just focus on coach. The other thing that, when I first started coaching, I remember I was at a party and my worst possible nightmare happened. This is how powerful I am, and I didn't realize it then. I thought to myself, oh God, what if I go somewhere and I tell somebody I want to be a coach and I'm, learning how to be a coach, and they ask me, well, what are your credentials? And somebody asked me that, and I was like deer in the headlights. So I remember this guy said to me, so what makes you qualified to be a coach? I've actually had several people ask me that in my career in 7 years. And what I said then is not what I would say now. I would look at them and say, well, what makes you think I can't be a coach? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. I'm all about possibilities. I'm a realistic possibilitarian. So what makes you think I can't be a coach? So how I answered that was, I have been coaching people pretty much for 18 years. I was in management. When you're in management, you're constantly coaching people. And that's all I did for those 18 years was I was constantly coaching and developing my fellow teammates and my employees who were direct reports. But for somebody who's newer, just starting out, to build that credibility, and what I did was at first, I got the certification, I got the credential, and then I started first by, just doing work for free and giving it away at first just so I could get that practicum experience and get, that client experience. And I did that for a while. And of course, I always did it in exchange for testimonials, right? And I made sure that I managed the expectation of the individual and they knew what to expect from a new coach. But I also realized that in order to be a great coach, I needed to have a great coach. So in the beginning, I had a coach, and I still have a coach. So, any good coach, any great coach out there is going to have a coach themselves, number one. In addition, how else, now, as I've been in the coaching profession now for 7 years, so how have I continued to, build that credibility? Again, I always ask for testimonials, and I get them from multiple different or I have them available in different channels, right? Not just on my website, because unfortunately, there's not as much credibility on my website as there is, say, on Yelp or LinkedIn, right? Because those are verifiable. So I make sure that I have testimonials, and I make sure that I have a lot of testimonials, and I make sure that I ask every single client for a testimonial. Another way is I've discovered being an author, right? Because, Chris, what are the first 6 letters in the word authority?
Well, and that's actually kind of goes into the third point of how you build authority. So before we get into the authority, I think the credibility, the key I take away from what you just said in credibility is you're setting expectations, you're meeting expectations, you're helping people solve real world problems, and you're getting other people to say good things about you once you've set their expectations, met their expectations, and help people solve real world problems.
Absolutely.
I think too many times in our business, our industry, people think you need to solve a $10 million problem to be looked at as a good coach. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, if you want to be able to coach people who are making 7 or 8 figures or 9 figures, sure, you need to prove you can do that. But as you're building your business, if you set somebody's expectation right and you exceed their expectation, whether it was get a 50-cent raise, whether it was have 2 more free minutes a day, the quantity doesn't matter. It matters that you set the expectation, met the expectation, and you're seen as a credible expert that can make things happen and make changes for people.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it definitely, as you get higher up and as you want to coach more affluent or more successful, businesses and people, yeah, you will need some more that people are going to go back and say, okay, they triple. It's kind of like funny. They say you can make stats say whatever you really want them to say. So
Oh yeah.
you can talk about, hey, I had a 300% boost in my subscribership based on this video. Well, you had one subscriber before, you got three more. You had a 300% increase. You're doing great. But if you spin it around and say, well, I only got two or three new subscribers out of a video, then it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to authority, which is exactly what you were just. Oh, go ahead.
Hang on one second. You just brought something up a minute ago, or triggered something in me that I wanted to share that helps with the credibility, and that is, it's a technique I learned in the sales profession, and I call it the feel, felt, found technique. And I've used those words sometimes, but I don't use those words all the time. But let me demonstrate how it works. And what I use this technique for is to let the prospect know that I relate to them, or that I've worked with another client that had a similar problem they did. So it sounds like this. Dear Mr. Prospect, I know how you feel. My client Sally felt the same way when she hired me. And what she found was, by working with me, we were able to achieve XYZ results in a much shorter amount of time, which is the same kind of result you're looking for. Right? Now that is a really clunky way to say it, but I just wanted to illustrate the technique of building credibility by relating to the person that I'm sitting in front of or talking to on the phone, and letting them know I totally understand, and I've worked with other people, or I've been through the same thing myself, and this is what happened. So that's a really important thing for coaches and anybody in business to remember, is to relate to people and to open yourself up. I'm a storyteller, so these kinds of stories come really easy to me.
Yeah, and that's so important. And just to kind of capsulize that, there's one thing you said there that I think was that I know if I wasn't intently missing, I know I would have missed, and I think is very important. The feel, felt, found method works very well when you have a client and you can say the client found. It's if you, granted, at the beginning you might have to say that you found. But the challenge becomes is that the minute you look at somebody and say, I know how you feel, I went through the same thing, and here's what I did, it turns them off, because you're saying, well, you're almost downplaying what they're going through. Where if you say, look, I know how you feel, I had a client who felt exactly the same way, and this is what they found. She found, then all of a sudden it's not you versus your potential new client. It's like, oh, this person has helped somebody else through this same situation before, and they might be able to help me. So if you're not getting a lot of new coaching clients and you're trying to use that method, you may want to take a look at the wording you're saying. Not you personally, Wendy. I know you're doing it. I'm just talking to our viewers. You may want to take a look at the wording you're saying and find out, hey, is this, am I using too much of me in this example?
Right.
And if you are, and your excuse is because you have to, then go out and do some free coaching sessions and make some changes in people's lives. So I'm off my soapbox now. I will step.
No, great point, though. You make a great point.
Thank you. Let's move on to authority. As you were about to say before, the root of authority is author, which is literally writing the book on it. And so one of the ways, obviously, the way you're doing is you've got one book, you've got a second book coming out, you've got a third book in the pipeline. What else are you doing to set yourself as an authority in people owning their greatness?
It's really mostly my writing and the videos. So it's going to be the blog posts. It's the books that I'm, planning far into the future. It's the videos, and it's just talking about this topic and being open about it, right? In my book and in my videos and in my blogs, I'm talking about, I am using myself as an example sometimes, saying, hey, these are the challenges that I'm having in living and owning my greatness. And, but I don't use myself as the example all the time. I even, I use a lot of, like I said, I'm a storyteller, so I'm telling my story, I'm telling other people's story, and I'm just talking about it from a very real context, because I don't think that it's of as much value to talk around the subject and, talk in theory and, ambiguities. I think that people really get more out of the topic from a real world perspective. So I'm writing the book, I'm recording the videos, I'm writing the blog posts, client's story, anonymized, of course, a friend, a former colleague, a current colleague, whatever the case may be, but I'm relating those true stories. And that's what really pulls people into me, is they're like, wow, okay, you know what? She gets it. And she's working with other people who are going through the same thing I'm going through, so she really gets it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. It's really around the writing in the videos.
Excellent. And I can tell you one thing, when we talk about using stories, in blogs, and especially in blogs and in videos, that's one area where it's perfectly acceptable. In fact, it's encouraged to use stories about yourself, because that's when people get to know you. The challenge becomes is that you don't really want to use a lot of stories, about yourself when you're trying to secure a new client in negotiations. Like when you're talking with somebody, it's like, yeah, I know what you're going through because I did this and this and this, and it just makes people feel like you don't understand where their pain. It's like you said, it's almost like saying but. I heard this a long time ago, where if you say but in a sentence, you pretty much negated what you just said before it. And I for a long time had to train myself, because I just used but just to mean, I never thought it meant anything. It's just, well, but, So anyway, see, I was about to say but there. So
Touche.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a lot of, well, anyway, I could go down a completely different path there. Back to being an authority and telling stories. So I love the way you're doing it. You're doing it the right way. The fact that, you're telling stories about yourself and your clients, anonymized, of course. I like that. That's kind of always the Jake, not his real name. It's like you have to specify that, because, our luck, we'd work with a client named Jake that would kind of sort of be similar, but wasn't really the person you forgot about. All of a sudden they start yelling at you. But anyway, that all being said, I'm even more looking forward to your second and third book, and ashamed that I haven't got the first one yet. I will just hide my head in shame again. Yeah, exactly. Bad Chris.
Hey, I'm going to break out the ass kicking here in a minute.
Okay, well, remember, this is casual day, so this is, we're on video, so I can't really, it would be a very nasty sight at this point if we actually did the ass kicking here. So, kind of reminds me of this story. I used to be really heavy. I used to be about 300 pounds, and so I told the story about me riding a bike once, and of course I said, yeah, me in bike shorts at that point, 300. No, it's never good. Never, not a good sight. So while spandex is a great invention, not on a guy weighing 300 pounds. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is, guys. If you're 300 pounds, please, I was there. Don't wear the spandex. It's not appealing. It just doesn't work that well, or put them under the shorts so you don't, the chafing it doesn't. But anyway, we're at a completely different. At least we're having fun. See, I warned you this was going to happen. My gate came off. So anyway, we've been talking in this segment about getting known and how Wendy is building visibility, credibility, and her authority in her niche, and that's a niche of owning your greatness. If you're watching this as a standalone episode, we definitely want to go back and catch the middle segment where Wendy talks about owning your greatness and how you can stop apologizing and start asking for what you want. And you also find a way to get in contact with her. That's wendynolin.com. And we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about getting found. And we're going to hear what Wendy's doing there at either video or other content marketing to get found and to get found in this noisy world we call the interwebs, or the internet, or whatever fun word you have for it today. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And we're back with Getting Found here on Expert Showcase. And as you can see, we have our lovely, wonderful, epic, awesome, incredible, super guest today, Wendy Nolin.
Yay! Made my day.
Is that a tattoo I just saw?
Oh yes. Let's see. Can you see it?
Awesome. What is that? We're gonna change topics here.
Okay, we're totally off topic now. Can you see what it is?
It's a lot of
backwards, but
it's a lot of different things. It looks like kind of what is it supposed to be?
So it is a train.
That's what I was going to say. I was afraid I was wrong.
And it's off the tracks, and the only thing that's colored in is the hearts, and they're broken. So it's an emotional train wreck.
Wow, that is the most complex tattoo I think I've ever seen. This is the most complex tattoo we've had on Expert Showcase.
Awesome. So I'm going to get the other arm done, and it's going to be, you know, like this is Humpty Dumpty that fell off the wall. This is going to be Humpty Dumpty all put back together.
Exactly. Now, before we even get into Getting Found, are you going to get the rest of it colorized, or are you leaving it black?
Yes.
And just you are going to get
what it's going to be is, so this one, you know, it's all broken and it's wrecked and it's, you know, fallen off the tracks. So the new one is going to be beautiful and elegant and flowing and full color, because, you know, this one is a moment in time where, you know, I was falling apart emotionally in a disaster and, you know, broken heart. So this one's going to be, you know, all of those things put back together in harmony and beauty and happiness and joy and love.
That's awesome. And you know, the funny part is that this actually all fits into our conversation today about owning your greatness, because if you go back and watch Wendy's hero's journey, or if you watch the piece that we talked about owning your, you know, the piece that she got into owning your greatness, stop apologizing and start asking for what I told you. I remember probably by the end of the show, stop apologizing and start asking for what you want. It all goes into that. I mean, that's part of that journey, and that's part of where Wendy was. So it's, you know, it might have seemed like a quick digression. It might seem like we went off the rails, so to speak, but it actually all fits in. You've got to go back and watch watch the rest of the episode. In this piece, we're going to focus on Getting Found, and Wendy and I are going to talk about what she's doing from a video content marketing standpoint, or from a content marketing standpoint in general. Now, to level set, for those of you who might be new to the content marketing concept, all content marketing is a way for you to create great content and get it out there. When I say content, we're talking blog posts, video posts, other things that from up here, boom, out to the interwebs, and getting you found and getting you recognized. And when you hear marketing, a lot of people think a paid type of thing, and that's the beauty about content marketing, is usually it's free, because you're just creating content to get out there and get people to understand and get people to know, like, and trust you. So we like to focus a lot on the idea of content marketing, and specifically video, but we're going to find out what Wendy does. So now that we've level set and I babbled on way too long, let's go ahead and get into it. So from a Getting Found standpoint, Wendy, and as I always joke around, you know, forget about the fact that we're on video and that we love video, because I want this to be an honest and granted, since you're a kick-ass coach, I'm guessing we're going to get honesty. So we have had some guests who very nicely kind of given us a softball on video content, but what have you found, or what are you doing right now from a content marketing standpoint? Is it video? Is it blogs? Is it something else?
You know, you answered the question already. It's blogs and it's video. And the video, I have a social media manager, somebody who is, you know, she's taking the reins and producing, she's doing the editing on my videos, she's curating content, she's doing the graphic design, because, you know, any smart professional, any business owner knows that you don't do all those things. You do the thing that you're good at, right? So for me, what I'm good at is writing and coaching. So I provide, I have to do the videos, but I don't do the editing, right? I don't want to do the editing. I can do the, you know, I can sit down and do some basic stuff on Photoshop and create, you know, the graphic design work for the quotes and stuff that go on my social media pages, but I don't want to. That's time consuming. You know, my job is to coach, to write, and to do the videos, and to, you know, go out and network and speak. And then I push all that other stuff that I'm not good at, that I don't want to do, onto somebody else, right? That's the beauty of outsourcing, delegating those things that I don't want to do, that I'm not good at.
I'm speechless because right now, if we were there, I'd be giving you a big hug right now and going, can we just have it? There you go. There. Actually, here with the side of the screen. There we go. The other side. Gotta go the other way. There we go. High five. All right. At least it was close enough. But no, I mean, if we had 100 guests like you and 100 clients like you, because you just and the reason it's funny because you guys came. See, I'm tearing up here because it's and I like I said, I am almost speechless at this point. Wow. Everybody who knows me, I'm never speechless, but I'm almost speechless, as close as I'll ever get. But the point is, you got it. You know and you understand the key to being successful. Do what you do best. That's and right. Let other people do the rest. It's funny, I talk about James Malinchak, and one of the things that he's from ABC's Secret Millionaire, and he's a very high level, get paid to get big money speaker. Sure. And one of the things he talks about is the fact that if he makes $100 an hour, why would he do anything that he could pay somebody $50 an hour to do?
Exactly, right.
And I get it, at the beginning of a business, that's a challenge. But every hour you're doing something that you could pay somebody less than what you make an hour to do is an hour you can't spend on doing what you're meant to do.
Right.
So it's awesome. I mean, it's funny because this is where I'm babbling right now, because sometimes every now and then a guest like you throws me a curveball and answers it and gives such a great answer that I have no clue what to ask next. But no, so the question would be, though, so you do videos, you're doing the blog. Are you doing any analytics right now? Or sometimes I use these, I use,
yes.
You know what I mean. In case our viewers don't, analytics are just merely a way of saying what is giving me the biggest benefit. That's the simplest way I can put it. Right. So are you doing any analytics right now to figure out where you're getting the biggest bang, whether it's video or blogs or other things? And
you will be so happy to hear that my videos are what is attracting the most attention. No surprise, right? Because, there's nothing else that you can possibly utilize in the marketing space that can convey a connection better than video, right? Because I can write a blog, and what's funny about me is I talk how I write, and I write how I talk. But even with my blogs, even with my social media posts, people still don't get a connection with me as deeply as they do through video, because through video we're using more of our senses, and it's all those senses combined that gives us a more sensory rich experience, and that's where the know, like, and trust builds that credibility, right? Because then when people can hear me, because when they read my blog, they don't know what my voice sounds like. They can see my picture, and they can, they read it in whatever voice they have in their head, but it's not my voice, right? So, once you hear somebody's voice, everything you read that they write, you read it in their voice, right? But until you hear someone's voice or see them on video, you can't possibly read it in their voice. And the video or a recording, audio recording, is the closest thing to being able to do that. So yeah, video is it. My social media person, we sat down 2 weeks ago, and she had, she ran the analytics and told me, which topics were getting the most views on the social media and what was getting the most, the highest increase in subscribership, and that was my videos.
Awesome. And it's so great that you mentioned about hearing somebody's voice and also seeing their facial expressions. I remember when I was working in corporate America, I had had a disagreement with somebody at one point, and it got kind of nasty. And after that, I thought we had made up. I thought everything was okay. But I kept getting emails from this person in response to emails I would send, and they'd be really nasty. Wow. And finally, what I realized was, even when I said something nice, the person hadn't overcome hearing me be nasty with them. So they were reading every email I sent to them, even if it was, how's the weather, to mean, basically, oh, you're telling me we're going to have a hailstorm today. It's like, no, I'm just trying to be nice here. And it took a long time for me to then repair that relationship and say that, and say to that person, and talk. I had to go above and beyond and talk a lot to that person to get them to realize that I wasn't being nasty in everything I said. The reason I bring that story up is because if you don't have videos, if you don't have audio out there, you're leaving it up to your reader to read it in whatever voice they believe and they feel you're saying it in. And
Right.
sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong.
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't want to leave that to chance when it's your business.
Well, not only that, what I've learned is, the written word is a sterile form of communication. You don't get voice tone and inflection and, the feeling behind the words. I mean, you can only use the various forms of enhancement to written word, italics or bold or quotes. Even then, it still lacks the emotion that can be conveyed through video.
Right. And take it one step further, an incorrect emotion could be conveyed through text versus video, because
Right.
maybe it amazes me today that people still don't realize that when you put things in all caps, it means you're shouting.
Yeah.
And fact of the matter is you might be very excited about something, but guess what? If you're excited about it, you got to find a different way in writing. You have to find a different way to show your excitement, because if you don't and you put it in all caps, people are just going to think all of a sudden you decided to start shouting for some reason. So, so it's much easier to be smiling and to be happy and and to do stuff like this than it is to
Right.
have to worry about what's on paper. So awesome. So it's great that you're using video, and it's great that video is the content marketing method that is getting you found and outpacing the blogs and everything else. And I'm still trying to figure out a way of cutting all this up and using it as a great testimonial, because you say it better than we can. So we'll just figure, hey, here you go. Here's what our guests say about why you should use video. But other than that, is there any other content marketing that you're doing I'll say content specific marketing? Like, in other words, are you writing or creating videos for a specific event, or doing anything else that you're really focused on saying, look, this is more than just content, this is more than just me writing about what I know about, that I'm actually doing this for a marketing reason and trying to get my message across, but also trying to get people to take action?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and I haven't spent as much time. I'm not that far ahead strategically in thinking about creating that type of material yet, but it's definitely now. You put a bug in my ear to talk to my social media person about that, because I think what I've been doing, full transparency here, right? I know how to do marketing, but I hate doing it, so I'm not doing a very good job at it. I'm good at coaching, right? Leave me to my coaching. I'm not doing as good of a job of strategizing long term, the content part, right? I think where I'm at right now is a little bit more reactionary and not thinking as far ahead. What I am working on, I'm finding that as a result of doing the videos and writing so much, I'm being invited to do more article contributions to outside of my little sphere, right? Outside of my social media, I'm being invited to contribute articles to global magazines and global. Well, everything's global nowadays if it's on the internet. That was kind of a stupid thing to say.
No, but you're doing it the right way. And what I want our viewers to really understand about what Wendy just said is that at the beginning, you focus on creating great content, and you're not really worried about structuring that content to get a sale. You're worried about getting the information out. Phase 2 is moving into, how do I structure this to elicit a response and elicit some sort of action, whether it's a free action, a buying action, some sort of initial action to get people in my yes chain, as we talk about it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of a yes chain, but the short, or a yes ladder, depends on who you talk to. The short version is you get people to start saying yes to you for free things, and eventually they're used to saying yes to, they're ready to buy, because they've said and they've invested and they've said yes to you before. So you're doing it 100% the right way. You're going on that content, just getting your message out, and then moving into the next step, which is, okay, how do I start seeding things so that people will take the action I want them to take based on this? And then, you know, the third step is, how do I get them to take a buying action right away, you know, as quickly as possible. So awesome. You know, we could talk forever, Wendy.
I feel that way.
You know, I think, you know, it's just kind of like, just, you know, I think we're just going to end up needing to book Wendy like every week. We'll just sit here for an hour and talk every week, and it's just. But no, this has been great. It's awesome. I would love to continue to talk longer, out of respect for your time. And then we're going to wrap this segment up. Once we're done, let's talk offline about continuing more conversations.
Sure.
And so I will throw it to you real quick and just say, any last words you have before I kind of ask people and ask them what we'd like to have them do next? Any last words you've got for today?
Next, I would love for your podcast listeners to subscribe to my blog on wendynolin.com. And of course, you know, I'm on all the big social media channels. Connect with me on LinkedIn, on Google+, on Twitter, on Pinterest, and Facebook. It's Wendy Nolin worldwide. And just remember, I am an ass kicker for hire. You can get the stiletto or you can get the fuzzy slipper. Either way, you're getting it.
I really better wrap this up.
Twice.
I was going to say, I really better wrap this up, because I am so glad we don't have that whole thing to tell what your brain is thinking right now. We'll talk about that offline. But anyway, so
awesome.
At this point, gee, I hope you enjoyed today. If you didn't, I'm going to tell you right now, if you didn't enjoy today, there's something wrong with you. Okay.
That's right.
But if you did enjoy it today, tell your friends about us. And if you're a coach, you might want to be on Expert Showcase. If you do, although I'm not good enough, you'll be able to come close. So if you want to be on Expert Showcase, head on over to expertshowcase.com. And remember, when doing things like this, every piece of video content you create is another piece of content marketing you can use. And we're going to give you your piece of the show. We can talk about all that later. Just if you liked it, head on over to expertshowcase.com, click the apply button, send us your information. We'll look at it, get back to you. And if we feel you're a good fit for the show, we'll schedule you and get you all booked in and do an episode with you. And if you're a coach and realize that video and video content marketing is where you need to be, and realize the power and the ROI and everything else that goes along with it, head over to VideoContent.Agency. That's VideoContent.Agency. Take a look around, see what we have to offer, and then get in contact with us. We'll talk, we'll see if we're a good fit for each other, and then if we are, we can set up a customized plan that'll suit your needs, achieve your goals, and get your video content out there to the world. So until next time, Wendy, hang on. We got more to talk about, but for now, you guys will just have to imagine what Wendy and I are talking about offline. So until then, make it a great day.